Welcome to episode 31 of the Emergency Storage Shed Clean-Out series. Before we get into this one, we've got a little bit of housework to do. Hey guys, Chris the Ultimate Recycler. In the last couple of videos, we dealt with a Briggs Stratton engine, and I can tell you, if we have a look at the screen, I've got 13 different listings of these Briggs Stratton parts on eBay at the moment. I'm very ambitious on the pricing at this stage. I just thought I'd run them through with a high start price as an auction. As you can see, a couple of them have got watches on them. I don't expect to sell all of them at this price because that adds up to over $400. Once they don't sell in the auction format, I will be turning them into a buy it now, and after a few weeks I'll drop the price regularly. So that will be fun to watch, and I'll certainly bring you the results in a future video. We also have in the video before that a little Samsung TV, and I didn't value this because I turned it on and it wouldn't fire up. I ran it through my dim bulb tester, which showed that it was drawing excessive current. However, thanks to many of you for your comments, I've learned a bit more about TVs. Apparently on startup, these CRT TVs draw a lot of current to energize the degaussing cable. Now, any of you scrappers will probably know that that's the cable that runs around the back of the picture tube. It's quite often copper, although in the later ones it was aluminium. And its job, I believe, is to demagnetize the screen as things start up. And once that initial phase is complete, it then turns off and the TV draws very little current. So that would explain why my dim bulb tester lit up like a Christmas tree initially and I couldn't get it to turn on. Possibly that was because I don't have a remote, and quite a few people suggested that the channel up or down button may well turn the TV on. So given that information, let's try it now. I've plugged it straight into a power board here. We're not going through a dim bulb. I've also been told that they have some protection circuits in them, so we shouldn't cause any major sparks and smoke if something goes wrong. So let's turn the power point on. And we have nothing there at the moment. Let's find the on-off button. Nothing's happening there. Let's try the channel up and down button. Now that did sound like it did something, but we still don't have anything going on, do we? I think the screen's actually lighting up. I can feel some static. There we go. We've got... Okay, so the TV looks like it works. I did need to operate the channel button to bring it to life. I think I'll get a DVD player and just see if we get a picture on it. Okay, I've got an LG DVD player plugged in, and we have a little control panel here which I think gives us some tuning options and AV. We'll press the AV switch. Aha, look at that. It's flashing a lot on the camera. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Okay, I don't think I can do much about that strobing you're seeing on the camera. It's actually perfectly fine here. I've got a DVD in here, some movie that I haven't heard of. There we go. We have noise as well. Oh, the TV seems to work fine. I guess now we can value it at something above zero. Okay, since we didn't value this telly in the last episode, we can now count its value in this one. I will be selling it. It's a little rough. It doesn't have a remote. It's got a few marks on the top. It's quite dusty. But as we see, it now works. I'm going to probably put that in the shop for about $80, I think, and we'll see how we go. I could probably even rig up a DVD in the shop and have it playing. So, and who knows, the remote might turn up, in which case I'll reevaluate. So, $80 so far for this episode. Let's weave our way around to the emergency storage shed, where we still have some stuff that's going to be in here, so it's not new boxes of junk coming in. It's equipment that I'm going to use in here, and some scrap that I don't want out in the weather. So we got the TV from up the top, so we've cleaned off the top shelf. Let's tackle the next shelf in this episode. Up the top though, I am going to put this tub, and this tub has some old lawnmower carbies and lawnmower bits and pieces that have come from the huge workshop clean out series that we've got going. So I've labelled it mower parts, and that's the code for that series. So I'll put that up the top, and as we free up shelving, it will allow me space to put things to help me sorting out all those random boxes of junk that came from that deal. They won't be staying there permanently. It's just somewhere that I can have tubs to help me sort and keep it out of the main workshop, and then I'll go through and look at selling them down the track. I have a tub for motorbike parts. I'm just turning up parts in random boxes and tubs, also stuff for the lathe. So I'm going to use these shelves just to help me sort all that stuff from that workshop cleanup. But I need to get rid of all this random stuff, some of which I'll sell, some of which I'll use. So let's start on the top shelf and pull off a few things here. This is possibly oil, and you may remember we had some containers of oil on one of the previous episodes, which I did manage to sell. No, this is truck wash, so it's a detergent. We possibly could still sell that as long as it is truck wash and not sump oil or something. What's in this one? I think it's hardware of some sort. It's heavy. It's, oh yep, pad bolts, door locks. Most of that will be sold. We'll go through that in a minute, and that will free up another spot on the shelf. Let's get into this one. Someone asked me about this box a while back, but it is just a box. I think it's got something else in it. I don't remember now. So we'll take, oh, actually it was used for magazines. Oh, it's got some vintage computer stuff in there. So we'll check that out in a minute. And the last thing on this top shelf looks like a really old fuse board. It's possibly got some spiders under here. Oh, look at that. That's been in the weather for a long, long time. I think that's possibly only scrap. We might keep the meter, but there's going to be some brass and whatnot on that. So we'll scrap that out and salvage what we can. Hopefully there's nothing alive on the back, at least close to my fingers. And that will free up 2 more shelves. Fantastic. So let's go through these things and sort them out. I've got them in the same order as we dragged off the shelf. And the whole idea, for those of you who haven't seen this particular series, is I'm sorting out stuff that's just accrued over 20 years and then had to be moved quickly because the property I was in was sold. And I'm really just going through it to process it and show you guys how to get rid of junk rather than getting a skip in. Okay, this has probably come out of someone's shed and I thought it might be handy, so I brought it home. It looks like detergent. Yep, it's definitely not sump oil. It smells like detergent. So that's about half. I would imagine this sort of stuff is fairly expensive to buy. So I'll just clean up the container so it looks a bit more presentable. And we'll put that in the $5 box at the shop. As I mentioned, the oils have actually all sold except one, so that's good. Righto, next was hardware, and we had, these look like screws. Yep, they're brand new. I think they're plasterboard screws or drywall screws. They're certainly handy. I use these sort quite regularly. So these will go into my stock of hardware in the shed here. So no value to write down there. Right, this hardware. Let's get the camera a bit closer and we'll have a look. Okay, we have lots of pad bolts. So these are the bolts that you would use on a gate or something, or a shed door where you can put a padlock on it. They're handy, but I don't think I need any actually, but I might, it might be worth keeping 1 or 2 here in case I do need them. But then again, I'm always turning these up and I usually have them in the shop. So I think I'll put these in the shop probably at $2 each. I don't have, oh, some of them actually have the end piece that goes with it. That doesn't suit, well, it's the right size, but it's obviously the wrong color. But more often than not, the bolt just pushes into a hole drilled in a frame of a shed or a gate post frame or something. So I think I should have no troubles getting $2 each for these. So there was 3 of those. There's another one. And, oh, there's another older one. That's quite a nice old one, but still not enough going for it to get more than a couple of bucks, I don't think. And that one, again, that's even got a little brass knob on it. How good's that? It's a bit seized up. Oh, no, it still works. But again, I'm not going to clean it up. They can just be in the $2 box as well. I think that's all of those. What else have we got in here? A latch from a vintage cupboard. another latch. That's the sort of latch you would see on a kitchen dresser or something from probably the 1930s or 40s. So it needs to have something that slides through there. They had a special hook that it closed on, and I think it's spring-loaded, yeah. So what are we going to do with these? Well, we'll keep sorting and see what else is in here. That's just a swing-over latch. I think that might actually be brass. There's another different sort of swing-over latch, used commonly on shed doors and that sort of stuff where you don't need security. And that's a door, more of a door style latch. It is a Lockwood one, and I don't know if the other part of it's in here. It doesn't look like it is. That's the end of a trunk or a box where you can carry it, and there's another one. So I'll actually keep these here and use them for a project. Sometimes I make up old boxes out of pallet timber or just rustic old timber. Sometimes I get a trunk that's missing these, so I will use these in my shed here for creating. A little swing over latch of sorts. I think that it looks brass, but I suspect that's like a die cast zinc. We have some probably 1950s or 40s knobs, again possibly from a kitchen cabinet or something like that. So there's a couple of those. They'd be popular, being a nice bright colour. Then we have some coat hooks, probably off a hall stand or something like that, different styles. Even an older one here with porcelain knobs on it. So a big variety of those. That's a die cast one, probably from the 50s or 60s. That one's a bit earlier, possibly 1920s or 30s, that one. And then the single little ones too. So there's a few of those. Oh yeah, there's 3 of those. Okay, what else? It's just an assortment of hardware. We have a nice little cupboard. It would be for a door pull. It probably goes that way. There's a scutcheon for the key. That would be 1920s probably. It looks brass, but I suspect it's just brass plated. Quite often they were just, yep, it's magnetic, so it's only just an iron, a pressed steel, and it's been brass plated. Nice piece of hardware though. Oh, there's one of those. What do we have? That's the sort of latch that would go on. It's not the right one, but that's the sort that it would use. They could possibly go together. Just a small, that's a small metal knob. Might be useful for something or someone. A Lockwood lock with a key. Possibly for a drawer, perhaps. And that one, so that one's probably, well, it's got the key. It's probably saleable, that piece. A drawer pull here, very Art Nouveau. That would be 1920s for sure. And I'd say the back of that is actually brass. Yes, non-magnetic, but the actual pull is steel. So a nice piece, but only the one. If I had a set of them, I'd probably sell them on eBay. They'd probably do quite well. That's a cool, oh, that is cool. It's a latch that can sit flush with the surface, and it looks like it just like turned the shaft that you would have a doorknob go on. Yeah, it appears to be brass as well, that one. Yeah, that's a cool piece. That will sell on its own. Here's another little latch. This one's off the old ice chests. So that one appears to work, but just one isn't really that saleable. And these are very, very common, these little double roller cupboard latches. It's just spring loaded, and when you close the cupboard, it clips there and holds the door shut. So very common those. I usually put all those in a jar and sell them for $5 for a substantial quantity of them. The rest of the stuff, well, it's going to add up to a little bit, so I'll work out some prices. I'll lay them out and we'll show you at the end. But yeah, no really good surprises in there, but a lot of saleable stuff. Okay, next is to delve into this box of vintage computer stuff. I think it's all mice. Yeah, look, it's a mouse plague. So they're vintage ones that I've accrued over time through the e-waste. We have a Microsoft corded mouse with the ball. So I'm not sure what these sell for. It's got an old style plug. Here's another one, much the same. So these are starting to become quite saleable because vintage computers are getting more and more popular. Another Microsoft one, much the same. It's a ball mouse as well. I wonder what dates these are. I don't think it says a date. But I would imagine they would be, probably early 2000s. The rubber band's well and truly perished on that one. They might be 1990s. But it's certainly technology that's been left behind very quickly with the old rubber ball. And there's probably a whole generation now that have never experienced having to take this ball out. Let me see if I can remember how to do it. I think you turn that around. There we go. And you'd have to, yeah, look, the little wheels that the ball rolls against there are caked in gunk. And you'd get hair in there and it'd clog it all up. And it was regular maintenance to scrape the hair off the rollers. All sorts of muck. So not very hygienic things. Certainly we've come a long way since these in relatively few years. But they are becoming collectible like most things vintage, especially relating to computers. So there's 1, 2, 3 Microsoft ones. That's an Olympic, so probably just a generic brand one. But again, it's a ball mouse. And A4 Tech. And again, another one with rubber ball in it. I think they've all got the same plugs. So look, at the very least, they're going to be $5 each. They might be bringing a bit more now. I'll have to check it on eBay to see if they sell for more. And this is a much earlier one. This is a Witty mouse. It's got an old, I think that's a serial port, do they call that? What have I got written on the tag? Oh, just where it came from. So it doesn't have a, it does have a rubber ball, but it's got 3 buttons to click. And what a clunky style. So that would have to be back in the 90s, I would imagine. Maybe even late 80s, early 90s. We're getting back a bit for sure. So that's certainly going to have some good value. Maybe eBay wise. I don't think it's going to be worth a fortune. I'll do some checking and let you know before we finish this video. I'm guessing these Microsoft ones might be maybe $10 each. Maybe $5 each for these generic ones. And I'm thinking 20 or so for this one. But I will confirm those prices when we get the notepad out. And the last thing to deal with in this video is this old power board. I suspect that this was from... Oh, geez, I thought something was jumping out at me then. I don't think there's any spiders in it. I think these webs are left over from long ago. It's clearly been out. It's probably in the backyard of my shop for a long time. Now, I suspect this is actually from a farm generator, probably a 32-volt generator system. There's a start button there. Oh, those little tags are going to be cool, little brass tags. I'll see what they say. I might certainly save them. But it seems to me like it's off a farm generator set. We had a fuse, obviously. There's terminals. Probably had an ammeter here. You can't read anything on the dial anymore. So the meter may not be any good. And the start button here is well and truly corroded up. It's like it's just a heavy duty switch. So I won't bore you with pulling this apart, but I will dismantle it. We'll put all the brass in one spot. I'll save some of these little brass plaques. And I'm not even sure what they is. Probably a relay, I think. So we'll just scrap this for what scrap metal we can get. We're going to get some wire and some stuff for the compost bin. Okay, I've just enjoyed a leisurely half hour or so listening to some music and pulling this old fuse board apart. I haven't cleaned this up yet. I'm interested to see what these brass tags say and how well they clean up. So we'll wipe that over in a second. we've got a lot of brass hardware, which I won't weigh up as scrap brass. I'll put that in a jar. There's some other bits that will go for scrap. All the normal screws and nuts are all badly rusted. I won't worry about trying to save them. They can go in the scrap bin. There's a nice vintage knob here with a grub screw. That might be useful. The fuse assembly there, I do keep those and I sell them through the shop with the actual wedge part that goes in them when I get it. I think this was an ammeter, but the print's worn totally off the back of it, and one of the bolts turned off as I was undoing it. But I will hang on to that because it's got a glass in it that I might use. I have a box of old meters and it's got quite a nice bezel around the outside of it. So we'll probably reuse or salvage parts off that at some stage in the future. There's a couple of lumps of copper. Oh yes, I pulled this switch apart. It is really just, it's like a car dip switch on the older cars, but look at the arcing that's been going on there. So that's just all going in the shred steel. That's not actually copper. The copper has arced across from these terminals. So yeah, she's been doing some sparking. Fair bit of current going through there, I would think. Anyway, that's scrap copper. That's going to be scrap brass. I'm not going to weigh it up. It won't add up to very much. I will put the hardware in a jar and we'll sell that separately. This thing was a relay. I pried the top off it and I can't get the top off now. There we go. And it's got a heavy spool of copper wire on it. I think I can just throw it in with electric motors. I'm not going to try and rescue the copper, and the lid can go in the shred steel. This was where those large terminals were, and I'm going to keep this. It's a phenolic board. It's like a Bakelite fiber type board, and I think this is as well, which is good. It might be handy in the future. Certainly that strip probably will be. You do have to be careful. Some of these boards that they mount old fuses on were made from asbestos, so this, you have to check that, but this one's fine. I've got a little bit of insulated copper wire. So that's all we got out of that. It was fun pulling it apart, and I'll certainly get a few dollars back anyway. But I think I'll just clean this off. And I've removed these brass tags, and I've given them a bit of a quick buff on the wire wheel. They'll polish up much nicer. We have start, we have field, which I assume it relates to electrical field or magnetic field and not where the cows go. We have load, and the larger one says decrease and increase. So definitely relates to a generator setup. And I've even kept the rivets there, and I've just buffed the heads. We get a focus on that. So they're going to have a really nice rustic appeal if I decide to use one of these tags on something. These old rivet things are a hammer in, but they've got a slight twist on them, so they kind of screw in, but with a hammer. They're very hard to get out normally, but they did poke through the back of the board, so I was just able to give them a thump from the back and they popped out. But I will keep those with the tags. I've got a few other of these tags in a drawer somewhere. Who knows when we'll use them. And now time for the wrap up and the notepad. I've just sorted things pretty well so that we can see what I've got here. I've decided I don't need to keep this sort of stuff. I'm going to put them in the shop at $10. The reason that I said I might keep them is I might do something with them one day, but that theory ends up cluttering the shed more than I'd like. So I'm either going to get $10 back for them, or they'll still be in the shop when I need them. I've priced out this sort of stuff, but I just left all this in here. That's probably just going to be $1 a pick at the shop. There's some pretty handy bits there for anyone that's doing up vintage furniture. I didn't really price any of this stuff. There's our brass hardware in a jar. A jar full of that's going to get at least $10, so that's much better than scrap price. And it's very usable stuff. So I've lined up all the computer mice here. They're actually bringing better money than what I remember. And I think as they get older, their return will actually increase. So our notepad, we ended up with a total of $259 from this lot. We could easily round that up to $260 or even $270 because we've got some good value here that I didn't actually allow for, plus a few things I'm keeping, but not much out of this lot. The mice, I went for $30. I went $20 each on the Microsoft ones. They seem to be selling in excess of $20 on eBay fairly regularly. Some of the yellowing ones, I'm not sure if that's actually meant to be yellow or it has yellowed with age, but they can be brought back with the retro bright process. I think it's a hydrogen peroxide, and it brings them back to original colour pretty much. This one looks original. So, oh, how cool is this? Someone's used part of a toilet roll as a cord retainer. It wasn't me, but that's pretty good idea. I've gone $10 each on these ones, even though they're generic ones. The ball mouse corded mice do seem to sell quite well. So that added up to $110. Everything else pretty well as discussed. I did allow $5 for that tub full of $1 sundries. There's a lot more. There's more than 10 in there. So there we go. Not a bad return once again. So thanks for watching another episode, guys, of the Emergency Shed Clean Out series. We are still haven't missed a week. We're still on track for emptying the shed in, what, 7 years? I think we'll do better than that. I'm making room in there, enough room that I actually, as I explained earlier, I can start using the shelves to help me sort out other stuff without bringing new random boxes of junk into the shed, which I'm definitely not going to do. Our totals, we've just chalked over $6,000, about $6,100 based on what I write down. We quite often do better than that because I don't write down things that I decide to keep, and then sometimes later I'll sell them anyway. So really good return out of that shed so far. We're going to continue forging through it. It's fun, it's profitable, it's making space, it's giving videos to you guys. There's no downsides at all. So thanks for watching. I appreciate your support. For those who do follow my channel, and probably the only ones that get right to the end of this video, Dad's still doing quite okay, considering he's still in hospital. He won't be coming home. He needs too much care. But they have managed to keep his painkillers, or get his level of meds to somewhere where he's comfortable, which is good. I talked to him on the phone a bit, so he's still quite with it. And I'll be probably back at the farm either next week or the week after, just depending how things are going. A lot of other family members are going back, and we're just sort of doing a roster system. And Mum would like to say she's read all your comments on all the farm update videos, and she really appreciates all your support, so she'd asked me to pass on her thanks for that. So we'll finish this video up. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.